Hey, welcome to another episode of the Fit Growth Machine podcast. I'm Brian Brayson, your host, and today I'm going to interview Chase Clymer. He's the co-founder at Electric Eye, where he and his team create Shopify-powered sales machines from strategic design, development, and marketing decisions. He's also the host of Honest Ecommerce, a weekly podcast where they provide online store owners with honest, actionable advice to increase their sales and grow their business. So it will be a very, very interesting conversation. So stay tuned. As before talking to him, I will tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. At BSR Digital, we help e-commerce brands that want to scale their business to the next level through Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. Even after the iOS 14 update, now more than ever, we need to understand that it's really important to level up the marketing and design a solid strategy as what used to work doesn't anymore. So we are very in line with Chase here, and we will be happy to discuss that in the conversation. So if your e-commerce brand lacks a solid plan and professional team to increase sales, we can help the same way we have done it for more than 1,000 brands for over a decade. To learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, and you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Chase here with me. Thanks, man, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So please, why don't you start by telling the audience more about your story?
Cool. Yeah. I've been in e-commerce for 7 or 8 years now. I've been in marketing and kind of just digital for over a decade, maybe 15 years if I'm really thinking about it. So once upon a time, I was in a band. I was touring the country in a band, and that didn't pay the bills at all. So I was more likely than not, I would be found working on my laptop from the road. I kind of started with digital photography was my first passion. I actually went to school for that. And then when I dropped out and joined the band, I was kind of more helping out a magazine with their layout, kind of got into the website side of things, started to learn marketing and advertising, picked up a bunch of clients, and, I freelancing ever since. Obviously the band didn't work out, and I had all these skills that I had acquired from being in a band. Well, not from being in a band, but from kind of freelancing for the longest time. And then my business partner left the career he was at. He was he wasn't a founder, but he was on the founding team of like a e-commerce store here in Columbus, Ohio, that grew to some significant revenue. And so he left there, and he was freelancing as well and making a bunch of mistakes. So him and I kind of teamed up inadvertently. I was trying to help him just be better at what he was doing. And then we started tag teaming a bunch of projects. The next thing we knew, an agency was born. So that's how I kind of got into e-commerce a little bit more. Like historically, I was, I had clients that were a little bit more, not all over the place. Like I worked for a law firm for a bit, doing kind of digital paid ads over there. I worked for a real estate company, helping them with kind of their rental portal, managing kind of a giant digital project for them. Learned a lot of really cool stuff. But once I started to really hone in on e-commerce, it got a lot more fun. I think what was exciting about e-commerce was like the direct response nature of your actions, like was cool to me, that I could be like, my idea made you this much money, and you can literally just point to things and be like, that's why you're making more money, is because of something that I thought.
Yeah, I mean, what an interesting story, and I definitely want to get back to the band thing in a sec. But before I forget, I just want to say that about that. I mean, influencing, the results for a business. I felt the same thing. When I got started, I think it was 2000. I come from the background of computer science. I was a former nerd. I still keep the glasses, but I just wanted to build systems that worked, and then I transitioned to the marketing. It's a long story, to the marketing industry. And back then, when we started the agency, we were doing, of course, back then was probably more common than today, although there are many agencies doing it right now, the organic side of things. So growing brands organically, no Instagram back then, only Facebook, and doing that stuff. And I remember going to meetings with clients and saying, hey, you got X new fans or followers, dislikes, shares. And in the beginning, they were, okay, great. But then over time, they started asking, how does this influence right, my business results. And it was like, but you hire me for getting likes, it was like, I wasn't comfortable with that. And probably we have that in common. We found in this performance, marketing space, what we were lacking in other industries, right?
Yeah, it's just I guess as you kind of get into digital as a career, and wherever you end up, on the side of things, it's just a lot easier to sell your services, I guess, is if you can really draw a line between the actions that they're going to take with the investment of hiring you versus the results that they're going to see on the other side of it, where it was just a little more less tangible to kind of like make those correlations with anything else that I was doing. And then I mean, I guess another cool thing about e-commerce that I really liked was the types of clients that I was working with back then were definitely smaller, more mom and pop, and it was really cool to be like, I can help this brand make a bunch more money, and like we were changing people's lives. Like we were moving, we were adding zeros to bank accounts and stuff. So it was really interesting to be able to kind of like find repeatable problems to solve for these people and really help them grow their businesses and really get to that next level, so that they can go out and hire more people to join their team, and they can kind of get all the stuff that they don't want to do kind of off their plate and focus on what they're really good at.
Yeah, 100%. And what what do you think, or what do you remember that you learned from being in a band? I mean, what things in common do you think that, or what lessons do you remember from being in a band? I don't know. Maybe it's you need to build an audience. You need to be persistent, right? You need to many
And I
things, right?
mean, a band is a business. At the end of the day, real bands are a business. People that are playing at the bars on the weekends, that's not a business. That's a hobby. Like I was in a real band. We were touring the country. We had a record deal. We were doing the whole thing. And that's 100% a business. But the thing that gets kind of overlooked is the artist element of it. That definitely plays in a bit. There's a lot of ego in the music industry. And one of the things that is unfortunate about the music industry is everybody has ideas. Nobody has a budget. Nobody wants to pay for anything. So I definitely picked up that DIY ethos, picked up a lot of, rudimentary accounting from being in a band, understanding, how to read invoices and all that stuff. But what it really was that kind of DIY ethos is something, is no one else is going to do this. We're going to learn how to do this. I'm going to do this for us. It was something that, it still sticks around these days. Fortunately enough, I can afford to hire people that have already done it before. That's definitely a learning curve of growing your own business is, definitely don't hire someone that hasn't done it before. That's a very, very good piece of advice. But back then it was just like I had to figure it out myself, just because we couldn't afford to fail through it. So yeah, the DIY ethos still kind of rings true this day.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I always like when, people come from different backgrounds. It could be a band, it could be fitness, I like always finding the things in common. I don't know, when you're fit, or you're in shape, or you have muscles, or whatever, right? Having six pack, anything, it tells a lot about you, right? You need to work out regardless of the weather, you need to eat well, you need to be persistent, you need to follow a strategy, a long-term strategy, and not, there are many things, like the mindset. It's super plays a big part in business, right? As well as in life. So if you're fit, or you've been in a band, and you know that you need to be persistent, because you're not having an audience of thousands of people going to, coming to watch the show, or every night, right? So you need to know how to probably find out what they want, what they don't want, and how to advertise the tour, or how to partner up with different people or companies to find the voice and your place. So I think there are many things there that I love about, the personal background, or the previous background in different industries, and how it relates to your background. So
Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioning just persistence. That goes across almost every industry, every passion, every career, is just persistence and sticking to it, and not giving up when faced with adversity. That's what really separates the people that make it in anything from others that don't.
yeah, yeah, and talking about e-commerce, you mentioned that you even were fascinated how you changed, lives because of, the results that you were getting for some mom and pop businesses or even some bigger businesses, and the impact you were able to produce there. So do you see things that, I mean, working that easy right now, or that straightforward, or things are way more challenging right now and it's not that easy to make the difference?
I think that's a interesting question. Here's why. I think that my knowledge, the more intertwined into e-commerce businesses that I get from working with our clients every day, the more I learn about this industry, the less I realize that I know about the full picture. Like I really understand the technology, I understand marketing funnels, I understand the math behind e-commerce businesses, but I don't understand how to pick a winning product. I'm not out there building like a brand from the ground up. That's a really interesting other side of it. That's there's a little bit of luck to it, but there's just a passion for problem solving. So that's like a thing that comes up a lot. It's like, people don't understand. They underestimate the amount of work that goes into building a good, sustainable brand. They just think it's a product and a website, and that is a terrible outlook. There's a lot more to it. And if it was that easy, why the hell am I shilling myself on Brian's podcast here talking about e-commerce when I could just go out and do that myself and get rich overnight? Like, take a step back and think about it. Like, there's a lot more to it than kind of understanding these fundamentals. There's this underlying aspect of product market fit and having like a winning product that's tied to a winning brand, that's tied to a problem that's solving that's creating a solution for real customers. Like, there's a real tangibility to this whole idea there. And without that, you're basically it's a race to the bottom on Amazon or something to like sell something for the cheapest to get it produced for the cheapest. Like, that's not the game that we're playing.
Do you think
I went on a complete giant tangent there. I don't even think I answered your question.
No, I mean, yeah, I think this is part of a conversation, and it's totally fine. I think you did, and we'll be talking about the same thing during the whole interview. So hang in there, everyone listening, because you will find all the answers that we are here to find. So the I think that based on what you're saying is that we can give you the book or the manual with everything to do, but then it's not. Of course, there are way more ingredients. Otherwise, everyone would be successful, and of course, we understand that. But talking about the marketing side of things, do you think that's the hardest part to do? I mean, to find the product market fit or uncover what your audience wants, or what do you think is the hardest part for an e-commerce brand nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, I think the hardest part, hands down, is finding product market fit. And it's such a interesting little concept. It's a little, it's hard to define. Everyone defines it in a little different way. And the way that I kind of like to think about it is like, is your product selling organically to people you don't know more than once, right? Like, is it actually moving? The velocity doesn't really have to be that crazy, but like if it's moving and you don't really have like an actual sales system built out, an actual advertising system built out, an actual marketing system built out, and organically this product's moving, you were definitely onto something. The product that you will have released in the way that you have described it in your rudimentary marketing is solving a problem, and people see the value versus the price of it, and they want to buy it, right? So that, like, that's a winning kind of model right there. So an example would be like, what doesn't have product market fit would be people that are spinning up a website over a weekend, plugging in a bunch of weird products from China with no differentiation between them. There's no problem solving. There's no funnel in mind. There's no marketing differentiation of this. That's not product market fit. And if you can do it in a weekend, everyone can do it in a weekend. Like, there's no reason to buy from you. That's a recipe for disaster. But something that I found in common with a lot of the people that I interview on our podcast is, these founders, they weren't really looking to build a business per se. They had a problem that they were passionate about solving. And by solving that problem for themselves, they realized there was a lot more people had that problem, and it organically built a business. And so true entrepreneurs are looking for those problems to solve. They're not looking for a product, if that makes sense. And so once you find that problem and you can actually solve it, by solving that problem is you're producing a product for the market, and that's going to have a higher likelihood of actually kind of getting that product market fit and actually starting to sell. And then you can actually build a business on top of that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozi is, but he's
Yeah, dude, I got I don't know if you guys can see the video of this, but I got the $100 million offers book over here, but it's buried under 18 other books. And if I try to grab it, I'll probably spill it all over the floor.
It's I follow the guy everywhere. I've been doing so since I don't know, beginning of the year. Before, it was probably when he was picking up, but not now and not 2 years ago. It was like right there. I read the book probably twice, a few sections, probably more than twice. And some of them is like, okay, I watched all his YouTube videos, I listened to the podcast, and it's, anyways, Alex, if you're listening, I don't think so, but I love the things you do, and I would love to speak to the guy at one point. But one thing he was saying, or I was listening to yesterday, was exactly that. You shouldn't focus on selling. You should be focused on providing that much of a value that people will line up for whatever you have to offer, and then you need to worry about the economics, or if you need to tweak some things because you're over delivering and undercharging, right? But that's another problem. Most people, and this is something we talk frequently on the podcast, so I'm glad you brought it up, is that people don't focus. People are more focused on the tactics and tricks that will take them
Oh yeah, dude,
to unaware, than to say, hey, how many times did you talk to, who is your customer, who is your ideal customer, how many times did you talk to that ideal customer and ask them what they wanted, what they didn't want? Did you give them a sample? What did they think about the sample you gave them, or feedback on how have you iterated? Or no, as you said, it's creating a Shopify store or WooCommerce or whatever platform store, and then uploading products and trying to sell, and oh man, it's not working. It's the agency's fault. That's like cherry on top, right?
oh my, yeah. So here, yeah, when people, all right, if your goal is you've got a little chunk of money and you want to go out and hire an agency to build you a business, you've already failed. Like, because again, it goes back to what I just said like 5-10 minutes ago on this. If it was that easy, why would I be offering our services instead of just building businesses all day long, right? It is not that easy. And, finding that problem, finding that product that actually solves, you got to do a lot of customer research, and it's a lot of sweat equity that is the founder's problem. And if you try to outsource that problem to somebody else, you're going to fail. You got to put in the time. You got to speak to your customers. You got to go to meetups. You got to go to farmers markets. You got to go to conferences. You got to meet real life people, your target demographic, and talk to them about the problems that you're attempting to solve. Those insights are what you're going to build your business on.
That sounds like a lot of work.
This isn't easy, dude.
I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah, I mean, we're not making fun of you guys if you're listening. We're just, trying to illustrate that this is a long way to go. It's the path they need to walk and not run since the beginning, because people try to run and say, hey, can you double my sales tomorrow? How many sales do you have? None. But, I just feel like it's the right ask. I just find an agency that makes me $1 million. And it's like, okay, why wouldn't I build that business on my own?
Well, let's explore that, Brian, right? You want an agency to make you $1 million. If I was just going to do some rudimentary math, they're going to charge you like 50 cents on the dollar to 20 cents on the dollar. So do you have $200,000 to $500,000 to invest in that? And more than likely, people are going to say no.
And I want the results without the investment. That's the way it works.
It's like, why won't you put some skin in the game, right? Is the next question. And it's like, why would I do that when I'll just cut you out and do it myself? You got to think about these things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when do you think it's the right time to hire the agency? If it's not when you don't have.
All right. So I've got a lot of thoughts on this scaling part. And now here's the thing. I've been kind of being a Debbie Downer for the first half of this podcast, maybe, about like, it's hard, you don't do it these ways. And it's more to just help you focus on doing it the right way. Focus on problems, talk to people that are experiencing that problem, find a winning product. Once you do that, focus on organic sales. Don't go into paid advertising. I would say until you're almost to $1 million a year. Like, I would honestly say, if you can build your business to $1 million a year organically, you're going to have a business that will be it can grow to as big as you want it to grow. Like if you can put in the work to do that, if you can build out an organic marketing and sales channel for your business that can get you to $1 million a year, like an e-commerce business, that you got a extremely winning business. And then it's going to be super easy for you to go out and either get venture investment if you really want to dig into it and hire someone like Brian to blow up your paid ads, or you want to hire someone like us to like run CRO for you and build out an amazing optimized, like fine-tuned store. Like at those points, you start to hire and bring partners in. Before that, literally between $0 and $1 million a year, I think your main focus as a founder should be building a system that you know you can turn it on and you're going to get more sales. Anything other than that is like a waste of your time. Like you don't need a custom website below $1 million a year. I think you can use anything from the Shopify theme store or whatever platform you're on. Just use something off the shelf, get it done. It doesn't need to be custom because I guarantee your customers, again, your customers don't care what your website looks like. Here's inside scoop. Customers care that your the product you're selling solves a problem for you. The price you're charging is under the value they expect it's going to get from buying that thing. And so back to kind of your question, which is, man, I'm just going down these rabbit holes.
No, it's okay. It's part of the conversation. Don't worry. It's like, when do they need to hire an agency?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can, $1 million a year is kind of a line in the sand, but I guess is like when you really know is you're consistently getting certain sales every month and you have the systems built out to your business where, all right, here's a good litmus test. If you literally hired an agency and your sales doubled tomorrow, like what happens? What breaks? I'm betting your fulfillment breaks. I'm betting you don't have enough packaging to do it. You don't have enough hands in the warehouse to pack these boxes, right? So you got to think about that first before hiring an agency, because any agency that's worth their salts, like if you haven't now worked with an agency before and you're doing 10, 20, 40, $60,000 a month in sales organically, and they come in and they like pour some gas on this thing, either with paid acquisition, to Facebook, Google or whatnot, or they're going to optimize the organic traffic you have, and they're going to build out retention systems through email marketing, or they're going to, run CRO on your website and take your conversion rate from like 2% to 2.5%, make you a bunch more money, but that's a bunch more sales too. It's like getting more sales creates more problems, kind of like you got more packages to ship, you've got more taxes to pay, you've got more things in your system that are going to get stress tested. And if you haven't thought about it, they're going to break immediately. And then all these extra sales actually are going to be customer service issues. And now your customers are complaining, you're going to get bad reviews, and you actually are going to come out behind instead of ahead.
Yeah, that's all true. In fact, unfortunately, we have experienced that firsthand with some clients. There was, of course, there still is, but a tremendous issue with, supply chain, right? So we had a lot of breaks in.
I always ask, I'm like, cool, let's see, let's play a little thought exercise. What happens when this works really well? And then you like walk them through everything, and they're like, you know what? Let me go explore that real quick. Let's schedule a call for next week to make sure that we can do some of these things.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, like, you mentioned systems, and I just got my attention. So for everyone listening and wondering, because I am, right, I'm curious now, and I need to know, man. It's like, what systems are you talking about? Like, what systems are really relevant for a brand to build? I love that. I read that one.
All right. So we run on like a hybrid, our like own little version of the EOS entrepreneurial operating system that is made famous by a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. That's in my hand that I was just showing Brian. That book is fantastic. The way that book is written is kind of a slog. Let's be real. It's a boring book. But it's got a lot of really good information in it. And it's written for like more of like a corporation, like someone with a lot of team members. But you can take the basis of like how EOS works, and if you can implement that into your business, like that's a game changer. And then from there, it's just systemize, write everything down, build out processes, with kind of the beauty of our businesses, being super digital. You can just make Loom videos of just about everything that can usually teach somebody else how to do it. Pretty straightforward. So if it isn't something that's like really truly requires problem solving and like subject matter expertise, like, development or, but buying paid ads, like, most of that stuff you can delegate, you can hire for. Oftentimes you can sit back and think about like, what's the return on this activity? sometimes you just don't need to keep doing that activity and cancel it or stop doing it because it's not bringing any value into the business. But yeah, building out systems where people are getting things done on your behalf is crucial.
That's awesome. I read it and it's a great book. You're right. It's kind of boring, but it's not a book to probably to enjoy as a novel, or something else. It's like a book to stop, think, implement, and then go to that chapter again and implement. It takes time. I cannot say that I implemented it, but I implemented a few things from it. So scoreboards or scorecards, uh, the the core values. I found that I hadn't defined core values. I knew a few of them, but I hadn't defined them nor communicated them to my team. And how that, I mean, it helps you understand that everything is connected, right? If you don't define your goals and your vision and your core values, how are you aiming to a north? What's the north for the company? Where are you going?
Mm-hmm.
As a wind along the way can, take you in a different direction and you're not even noticing, and it ends up being whatever company but the one that you wanted to build in the first place. So if you don't know where you're going, nobody's, and that takes you to the hires, the team, the employees. Is like, who are you hiring? Is people sit in the right, is people in the right seats with the right skills? And so it's like it gives you food for thought throughout the book. And yeah, I think everyone should read that. So it's a good recommendation.
Yeah. The our main takeaway was kind of the defining kind of what it helps do is like give you an operating system for your business. It defines like kind of what a task is versus what like a rock is. That's really kind of crucial to learn. And then like, getting rid of shiny object syndrome, basically putting things that are big, like putting things on a to-do list that are a delayed to-do list and like watching them fall off is like a big kind of mindset shift in a lot of businesses. But yeah, like that VTO, vision traction organizer, for like the vision of the business, we still use that to this day. We kind of use the level 10 meeting structures, a version of that to this day. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. And we implemented it ourselves. If there's anyone out there that's listening that is like, oh, should I hire a traction implementer? They're expensive. If you're running an e-commerce store, I think you can figure it out yourself.
Yeah, totally. And you're, well, again, great book, great recommendation. It's a great system for managing your business and trying to start getting things done and tracking that. But is there like any system or framework to scale in a brand? Is there such thing?
Yeah. And this one, it's probably something that you're going to agree with me on, right? So let's say that let's go back to that idea of like, once you hire an agency, right? And we're like, well, you've got like organic sales happening because your product is actually solving a problem. And you've ran through this kind of thought process of like, okay, if my business doubles tomorrow, what's going to break? And you've stress tested it and you've figured out like, all right, you're like, I'm pretty sure that I can scale now. A system that usually people overlook is this idea of content creation and like basically actually producing enough content to really do paid media and your email marketing and your social media like correctly. A photo shoot / video shoot, every quarter, that's not going to cut it these days. You really need to have a system that is producing content. Brian is probably going to ask for weekly content to really update your Facebook ads. I don't know if they're doing TikTok or whatnot, but like these things, these social media, these visual heavy advertising platforms are hungry for new content to test, to either win or lose, and then it just is deleted. You're not testing it again if it's already lost. Like that content's gone forever. So, anyways, what system should you build when you're kind of getting this? Is make sure you have a content creation system, right? And so there's a few ways to think about it. Is one, build something internal where you guys are always producing content. And now this isn't just like a photograph, right? Like here's a perfect example. One of our clients, they produce like a food product and they ship it nationwide, and they are producing recipes every week, right? And for their blog. And this gives them a reason to reach out through their newsletters, to post through their social media, They even advertise some of this stuff to listicles because within the blogs, they're upselling their actual products that are used inside those recipes, right? So they're producing internally, they're producing a piece of content every week, like a nice piece of content every week. They also partner with influencers. These influencers are writing recipes for them, right? And they're getting featured on their blog. It's a nice little piece of co-marketing. So now they get, they're producing one, influencers producing one, and then they reach out to their customers to get UGC from them. Be like, how are you using our products? Tell us how we'll feature your thing. Like, you're not an influencer, but you're one of our customers, right? And so now they've got 3 different systems built within their business that are producing this pillar content that they utilize everywhere throughout their business. Now they take all this content, they give it to, a team like Brian's to use on their paid ads, and they're happy as heck because they've got this, link that updates with all this cool content every week for them to test. They give it to their social media team to always have things to post about on, on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter and all that jazz. And then they're giving it to their retention marketing team so they can help use that stuff to craft all their email marketing messages, right? Just getting those systems built, just make all that stuff just work so much better. So you can actually kind of run those systems at a better, more proper scale.
Yeah, that's pretty in line with what, probably you will know. I forgot the last name. I always do the same thing. It's me. But the report that the coach at e-commerce Fuel put together a few months ago, Andrew, I don't know if you remember the last name, but sorry, Andrew, again, I keep doing that. I suck with the names, but I have it right here. Andrew e-commerce. Let's do it live. It's Andrew Udarian or something like that. Sorry, Andrew, but for misspelling that. But the guy put together a really thorough report. He surveyed like 600 plus e-commerce brands. Plus, he partnered up with tools like PostScript and many others to provide them with data for the report. And basically, long story short, in line with what you said, the number one factor that, according to the report, is responsible for the top performing brands versus the comparison group is the branding factor, not the ROAS, not the ad spend, not like the branding factor. And going back to the beginning of the conversation a little bit in this episode is that you need to build that brand. And for that, again, going back to the EOS, you need to stand for something. You need to define your values. You need to define your mission. You need to collaborate with other influencers, right? Brands, influencers. I interviewed the head of e-commerce at Overtime, and I remember they even created the basketball league for young people. And then I think they featured 3 of them and created like the top 3 and created a clothing line or a product line for them in their own Shopify store. So it's crazy that the where you can go with that. There are some brands that they have like some VIP customers and they do the early releases there so they can give them feedback so they can iterate the products before releasing them to the public. So there are many ways you can collaborate with brands or with your own customers, building a community, supporting, providing them with support in different things. So, but yeah, long story short, sorry, I went off the tangent. In this case, myself is to say that, it's very in line with the stats, right? The branding is key and that goes with content, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just think that once you get that problem solved and you get kind of the fulfillment issue solved, like you can actually kind of really get into scale. And, at that point as a business, you're kind of like in that $1 to $10 million a year range is where you're really, you're learning your paid acquisition. You're trying to get your, kind of your margins up, get your cost of acquisition down. And that game is definitely about refining systems and refining kind of your product offering and getting all that stuff rock solid. I would maybe even, I wouldn't call it mid-market, but like, between 1 to 10, 3 to 25, like somewhere in there is like, that's a little bit more mid. And then above that is where, e-commerce gets to become more concerned about the money behind e-commerce and like where you're parking your money, where your inventory is, where your float is per se, which is a completely different conversation.
Yeah, no, totally. And then I have a question for you. You mentioned acquisition and, the conversation is all about in general, with some e-commerce brands, it's about decreasing the cost per user or per customer acquisition if they are doing paid ads, for example, right? But nobody talks about the two other levers, which are probably increasing the average order value and decreasing the time between purchases, or the LTV, right? Increasing the LTV. So, what do you think? What do you see most that e-commerce are missing when it comes to increasing the average order value and making them buy again and again?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just simplify your question, right? It's like, how can I increase my return on ad spend, right? And most people go down this rabbit hole of let's lower the cost per acquisition, right? And so at that point, they're putting all of the onus on the advertising team, and the advertising. All right, look, let's just advertising is definitely difficult. I'm not belittling what Brian and his team do, right? But at a certain point, you can't get any better than what the algorithm's doing for you, because these algorithms are programmatically made to make the advertising company money and the advertiser money. So it is a long-term relationship, right? So at a certain point, you can have the best ads in the world. Like, let's say you have the best ad in the world, right? And your website experience is dog shit. Like, it's not going to convert. So a lot of people get siloed in their thinking about, the return on ad spend is only their ad creative and their like placement in whatever their ad team is doing. That's as best as it can get. And that's completely false, completely dumb way to think about it. It's like you're overlooking the experience, which is, I would argue, more important. If you have a better experience, a faster website, something that makes more sense for your customers, it solves a lot of their questions, gets rid of their fear, gets rid of their doubts, it gets rid of all of that stuff, and really educates them about what problem your product is solving. That's going to make your conversion rate go through the roof. And so now you have immediately increased your return on ad spend, because more people are buying your product that are being sent there from the traffic from your great ad, right? And so this whole thought process and theory, we came out with a guide. We're calling it it's the brand scaling framework is this kind of strategy that we use at our agency, and so we kind of put all this stuff into this guide, which I'm constantly writing new content for, and we're going to probably come out with a version 2.0 in a couple months. But the first version's out for free. You can literally just go to brandscalingframework.com, put in your email, you'll get sent this cool book. It's got a nice little punk rock cover. Obviously can't let the music die, but what's in this book is exactly what I'm talking about here. There's this whole thought exercise where we walk through a company that has, all right, let's do option A, that you've got some budget and you're going to invest all of this budget into paid acquisition, right? And you're not going to focus on increasing your conversion rate. You're not going to focus on increasing your average order value. You're only focusing on traffic, the sessions to your site through paid ads, right? And then I'm like, cool, it makes them this much money. Now we go back and we look at, all right, well, what if you invested that much money into making your website experience better, i.e. raising your conversion rate and making your average order value greater, which comes down to your offer, which at the end of the day, it's like bundles, cross sells, upsells, just giving more value for a better price will raise the average order value. You put all that effort into the website and you make those numbers go up. Then you put traffic and you show the delta between the two. And all this is laid out in a couple pages within that book. And it's just mind boggling, like the amount of money people are leaving on the table because they don't want to invest in a better experience.
That's entirely true. I mean, everything you're saying is true. I mean, you can have the best advertisers in the world, but if you have a leaky bucket as a website, you will lose money all the way. And you will pay expensive. You will pay me or anyone you hire, and you will pay the ad dollars, and it will hurt, right? And the customer experience wouldn't be great. Those people probably wouldn't come back for a long time. So yeah, it's a lose-lose. So you better get your house in order, your website performing well and clear, transparent, and, in line with what you're offering. And then of course, you amplify the message through ads or any other way, but organically probably is the smartest way. So everything you said is on point. Anyway, it was a great conversation. I mean, I really enjoy always chatting about these topics, because when I get to, to put my hands on it, talk about these kind of insights, and with a great guest like you, it makes the conversation really fun. So I really, really appreciate you being here.
Oh, dude, thanks so much for having me. I have a blast being on this side of the microphone, being interviewed. Most of the time, I'm obviously interviewing brands on our podcast. Taking a little bit of a break because I had a bunch of them recorded, but I'll be getting back into it. By the time this comes out, I'll probably be getting back into interviewing people again for the podcast on our own. But yeah, dude, I can't thank you enough for having us.
Yeah, it was great. So before we go, please tell the audience where they can go to learn more about you, your company, and of course your podcast.
Absolutely. All right. I'll plug three things, I guess. First and foremost, I'm Chase. I am the co-founder at Electric Eye. If you have a Shopify brand and you're looking, you need help with optimizing your store, we're basically either designing new themes for our clients or optimizing existing stores. A lot of CRO, a lot of fun stuff around conversion rate and average order value. That's our bread and butter, right? So if you think you're might be a good fit for that, just head over to electriceye.io. You can sign up for a free consultation, and we'll kind of see if we're a good fit to help you out with that. If you just like my thoughts on e-commerce, you want to hear me interview brands or other subject matter experts, that's Honest Ecommerce is the podcast. You can get that on all the places where podcasts are. We also have a video kind of portion of it, so it goes up on YouTube as well. And then that book that I talked about, the guide that we released, if you go to either of those two websites, the pop-up's going to, offer you the book as well. Or you can just go to brandscalingframework.com, get the book there. It's got some awesome insights onto how to increase these KPIs. It's got a spreadsheet that we walk all of our clients through that shows them what their numbers do and how it affects kind of the outcome. And it just simplifies how to think about scaling an e-commerce brand down to 3 KPIs and what levers to pull to increase those KPIs. That's really cool piece of content. And if you do read that and you like it, just let me know if there's anything you want me to clarify on in the next edition. That's really what I'm looking for, is feedback on that piece of content that we put out there. Other than that, I hope everyone has a fantastic year.
That's awesome. Great, man. So for everyone listening, if you go to fitgrowthmachine.com, you will find the show notes there. If you're already there, scroll down because everything that Chase just mentioned is there. And it was an honest pleasure to have you here. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to everyone listening. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you.